In this podcast, we discussed branding and how it touches so many parts of our lives, from culture to sports, music to business, technology, and then some. Welcome to episode 1 of Don Draper's Den. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ernie.
As marketing insiders, we offer our perspectives, our insights into the fascinating world of myth-making and legend creation. So, pour a glass and let's jump in. For those of you who have never seen this, which would include everybody, I thought we'd start off with why it is we're doing this. Ernie's one of the best in the business, and I think it's fair to say we're trying to give everybody an idea of what you and other folks in the business find so interesting about marketing. So much so, we decided to put a podcast together about it.
Well, why not?
Right? Why not? So, if you had to sum it up, what would be something you'd tell people maybe they don't know about marketing, or maybe the motivation behind marketing? And then we'll dive into why we have this podcast going in the first place.
Sure. I guess for me, I've always been fascinated with marketing ever since I was a child. I literally remember the first time I was fascinated by it. Do you remember? You might or might not remember this, but I think it was like in the 80s, McDonald's used to have this campaign where they put a little record into the newspaper, Sunday newspaper.
Okay.
And I remember walking down the steps one morning on Sunday, and I saw my dad. He was sitting in the living room floor reading his newspaper like he usually did every Sunday.
Okay.
And I sat next to him. Typically wanted to look to see if there were any puppies for sale or whatever in the classifieds. Sure. But I was looking through the newspaper, and attached inside the newspaper was a small little record. And I'm like, what's this? It was from McDonald's. Okay. And I remember thinking, like, okay, I want to play this on a record player. So I took it out. I went to the record player, and I pressed play. And basically it was a campaign. It was a promotional ad where if the people on the record, if they sung the whole McDonald's menu song, into completion, then you get, like, I don't know what it was. You got some free meal.
Right.
And of course, I'm like, oh yeah, come on, I hope I win, right? Wow. So I'm listening to the record, and in comes the menu song. I want a Big Mac with TLT, quarter pounder with some cheese, filet of fish, a hamburger, and cheese. And here it goes, the whole song. Right. And then towards the end, all of a sudden, the singers of that song screwed up, and they're like, oh, rats. And I remember being so down and deflated, like, man, I wanted to win, like, the prize. Yeah. But ever since then, I was captivated with marketing and advertising and promotions, and that's kind of like what this whole podcast, I wanted this podcast to be about, is just to be able to talk about marketing, talk about branding, maybe get some insights about it, but also kind of reminisce about marketing back then, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and just kind of like how far we've come, but also what have we lost since those days when those advertising giants, those madmen were creating great fun ads, great promotions. And I just thought, hey, let's do a podcast about it, just kind of talk about it. This would be a great time to allow others to sit in the den and just talk marketing.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. You say, okay, so I think everybody can relate to nostalgia, but I don't necessarily think, I don't think of that as being something that was a marketing thing at all, right? So in other words, it seems like it's organic. Oh, McDonald's just is doing this now, right? GE and everybody, like, they're all just doing what they do. No, it was the insight of some marketing person that created this campaign. Right. I think that maybe I'm appreciating how much of an art there is to it.
Yeah. And I oftentimes imagine, like, what would have been like to be in that conference room talking about that particular campaign? Like, who was it that said, I have an idea?
Right.
What if we made a menu song, and what if we put it on a record, and
that's a weird
and get everybody, and, like, that's such a and the process that it took to do that, or better yet, okay, let's fast forward a little bit. What about the Geico commercials? So easy, a caveman can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine being a fly on the wall in that conference room and hearing that ad agency say, I have an idea. What if we have this slogan? It's so easy a caveman could do it. And there's really a caveman in there. So,
if you're basically right now, you're pitching me the idea. Right. And I would say, like, I'm not some genius. I'm not. And I would say, dude, that's the dumbest idea. What do you mean a caveman? What?
Right.
Nobody's going to buy anything from that. You'll kill the company. But lo and behold.
Right. So it takes risk. It takes guts. Right. For them, even the executives of Geico to be able to say, yeah, let's do it. That sounds great. Like, what went into that decision to agree to that? To me, that's fascinating. And it kind of reminded me of the Mad Men series, and where Don Draper and his cohorts will be in his office and they're brainstorming and they're thinking of ideas for an ad, and it's a closed room session where nobody can be in on that conversation, but everybody on the outside is kind of wondering, what are they talking about? What's the mystery? How do they actually come up with these ideas? Right. And then lo and behold, there's a bunch of guys drinking scotch and bourbon, like
talking a bunch of trash.
Right.
Yeah.
And then something all of a sudden dawns on them. Oh, I got a great idea for this ad. Let's do this. Right. And I guess that's kind of why I wanted to do this. Is like, let's emulate Don Draper's Den, kind of like give the insider scoop of marketing and branding, and give some insight on that process and what goes on in that. Hopefully our listeners will hear a little bit about marketing and branding. Certainly we're hoping that they're entertained most of all. So.
Right. Hopefully. Hence the name, John Draper's Den. So, all right. So we have, it sounds like a noble thing we're trying to do, right? Take the veil off, which I always find fascinating. If you lift the veil off of things, most of the time you're going to find that there's some genuine, say, good intention behind it. Yeah. Right. And I think that, like a lot of things, certainly in the world of finance and plenty of other spots, it seems like the world is maybe a touch too cynical. In politics, most certainly, and a number of other places, it's like, they're just in it for the money, just in it for this, just in it for that. But those other items aside, certainly in the world of marketing, it's like, well, they just want you to buy something. Maybe it's true, sure.
Yeah.
But what about the art of it? Yeah. Right? Isn't it something? What if it's a good product? Right? It's not fair for that business that really has something cool they want to share with the world, but then they don't have the way to communicate that. Right? They're too busy making the widgets.
Yep.
So I like the idea that marketing, branding, this whole business, this whole industry is a way to, give hopefully the right people that platform. That could change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's super cool. I never saw it that way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Plus, it's kind of funny to imagine they just have bullets. By the way, there's bullets.
Yeah.
What are these? Cool? They're not actual bullets.
No, they're not actual bullets. So you could actually get these online. They're bullets that you could freeze and use as ice cubes.
Actual bullets.
Did I say actual? I didn't say it. No, they're... Anyways.
Actual bullets
they're
use
not,
people.
Yeah, okay.
We're living in the edge.
Right.
Mad Men, yes, obviously, here.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So we have what seems to be a noble effort. We're trying to do the right thing. The element... Here's something I didn't think of before, is the element of risk. Right? So it's fascinating to me to consider, like, I guess you picture big business and corporations, maybe these companies we can all think of that have legacy standards at this point in terms of their business. They can afford to take the risk. They can take a hit.
Yeah.
But what about those mid-level, small places?
Yep.
They can't really afford that particular risk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Providing them a voice, getting them from ground zero to the next level, whatever that might be for them.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit of what the difference is there, right? To say, okay, big corporation versus, no, this is where you got to start.
Right.
How does that shake up?
Depending on the size of the companies and their budgets, right, it's going to impact the size of the campaigns and perhaps even the risks that you take. Yeah. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about in upcoming episodes is not just for like big business and what are they doing, but really, what about the small and medium-sized businesses? What can we do in terms of marketing and branding to help get our voice out there to promote our product or promote our services? And so, yeah, there's a lot of different tactics that even though you might not have a McDonald's size budget, you can still get the word out. And there's a lot of, so we'll be going over tactics, we'll be going over tools that you could be able to utilize, different strategies in order to implement in order to be able to attract and pull people towards your brand, towards your product or services. And so, and it's possible. That's what's exciting about today, is that you don't have to have that large budget in order to be able to get the word out about your services. There are tools out there. There are digital tools out there,
right?
And it's exciting. And so there's so many things that we could be able to talk about in this podcast, and that we will touch on, because we could talk everything from AI, everything from social media, online advertising.
We could, yeah. I mean, we could talk about how Josh doesn't really enjoy bones in his chicken wings.
Right, yep. We could explore
one of our creators here.
Yeah.
Just so you know who we're talking about.
Right. Bone in or non
bone in every time. This is America, dude.
Oh, I agree. I'm totally with you. I don't even understand people who eat
they're chicken nut. Let's be. If you're a grown man, if you pay your taxes, right? If you're taking care of your family and you go get the boneless, you're just eating chicken nuggets.
Right. You're just eating chicken nuggets.
Come on.
I agree.
Right?
That's one thing I know you and I could agree on. So any of you, if you're listening and you like what do you call it?
The boneless?
The boneless chicken wings. You're just eating chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets. I'm sure they're tasty.
Again, that's marketing. Hey,
right.
let's call it boneless chicken wings.
That is
right.
Wow, there it is. Full circle.
Right.
All right, so
that's marketing.
That is marketing, right? But wouldn't it be funny if instead of like, what if there's Dino Nuggets? Maybe we're giving away. Maybe somebody's gonna steal our idea. But there's Dino Nuggets for the kids, right? What kind of nuggets would we have for the dads of the world? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what you can think of some.
Yeah.
Leave it in the comments, I guess. But yeah. Anyways, so all right. So small business can use our help. Big business, yeah. But when do they need help? I guess they can like rebrand themselves, reintroduce themselves. So those are cool ideas. It'd be cool to maybe look at those kinds of things in the future. How businesses just kind of change maybe even their trajectory, and it starts with a big marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of cool to see that. Another thing to cover too is the kind of tools that are available. So when I think of back in the day, I think of like, well, how do you get the word out there and brand and market and all this? Billboards, radio, TV spots, ads in newspapers. I don't know, you flyer the town you live in. But other than that, what do you do? And then all that takes like a ton of money.
Yeah.
That's like, and if you're a small pizza shop, relatively speaking, you can't blow tens of thousands of dollars on a billboard or something like this.
Yep.
Right. So the dynamic of social media is huge. I would imagine that changed the game in ways we don't even understand fully now.
No.
Right. So when you have a team of people, what kind of people are we talking about that, like, what are the jobs, right? Because there's website design.
Right.
But what other things are in the mix for like marketing overall that maybe people don't know about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, marketing overall, I mean, as far as internal staff, like you would need in order to build your department.
Yeah.
So typically marketing would require everything from the copywriters who write copy, who create all the words and the brand narratives of your company, to the designers who take those words and then visualize it into an ad or a social media post, right? Then you might nowadays you're going to probably need to have access to videographers, because TikTok, Instagram, these instructional videos on YouTube to Reels, right? All these things are now needed and required for the next generation, especially. They're growing up on videos, and so you're going to need a videographer. You're going to need your brand managers to oversee the brand, make sure that everything is tight. You're going to need those marketing directors. You're going to need people who could work with the media, work with PR. I mean, there's so many people involved behind the scenes of any particular campaign, you name it. There's hundreds of people that are involved, if not just a handful. I mean, there's a lot of people. I think a lot of them would be interested in being in Don Draper's den, actually, and kind of listening in and kind of hopefully we could hear in the comments some of your experiences or some of your stories regarding it. But yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, it's never just the guy or the girl, right? No. That's the spearhead of a massive team. I don't know if that's really different anywhere, right? Yeah. Any business you're going to see that. Okay, so we'll go through some of those 5W hows, just like English class, high school people. I'm not that smart. So the who, all right, so talk about the team. The what.
Yeah.
What is marketing? So you're talking about storytelling, branding. I kind of like, okay, we kind of know what that is. I know what a brand is.
Yep.
But how do you build one?
Yep.
Is a real... Well, that's probably a college course right there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot involved in building a brand, right? It's not just when we talk about branding, people think of logos, right? They think of a name of a brand,
Nike swoosh or
right?
Something. Right?
But they don't realize all that's packed in it. And I want to cover that. I think this would be a good place to actually talk about it, unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
But what is involved? What are the words that are involved? What's the feeling? What's the experience that you want people to have? What's your perception of a brand? All those things I think are important, right, to talk about. And then, when you're talking about marketing, again, you're talking about tactics, your strategies, you're talking about budgets, you're talking about, KPIs. There's a lot involved with marketing, right? There's a lot.
What's a KPI, bro?
Key performance indicators.
Indeed.
Like how are you measuring, right? Like your effectiveness of your marketing campaigns, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot involved. So yeah, who do I want to be watching this? It's all those people involved in marketing, because you could all relate. This is something, or maybe you're just a business owner and you're a startup business owner, and you're having to wear every single hat. You're making the widgets and you're having to sell and market the widgets, right? Well, I want them, invite them into the den too, to talk about marketing and discuss these things, right?
That is huge.
Yeah.
That is, when you're making the widget, that is something where more than a few businesses, small business owners, man, they get caught up there.
Yeah.
And having to wear this particular hat, man, that's a lot of idea. That's just a lot of bandwidth for your brain when you're trying to just make the widgets. It's hard enough.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain value that is not really understood in what is done in the marketing world. And I see that, I see it as being it's one of those things, like there's a lot of things in finance, I guess you can see this too, where it's either really undervalued or really overvalued. You think, I can't afford that sort of a thing, or, whatever, that's only for rich people, or big corporation, blah, blah. Right. Or, get it done. It's free. It's cheap. It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. It depends what you want to do.
Yeah. Remember there was this old commercial on TV, and it was, I believe it was for Dunkin' Donuts. It was for Dunkin' Donuts, where you'd see the chef of the donuts, and he would walk, and it'll be in the middle of the morning. He'd wake up.
Time to make the donuts.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude.
Time to make the donuts. And then the next day, he'll wake up. Time to make the donuts, right?
Oh,
that's what a lot of startup businesses in particular, or small businesses, that's what the owners are like.
Right.
They're the ones who wake up in the morning, they're like, it's time to make the donuts, right? But then somehow I'm also supposed to market the donuts. I'm supposed to tell people about the donuts. I'm supposed to do what with this ad, or there's so much involved. And so hopefully this could be a time too where those type of business owners can hopefully, after a long day, could be able to listen to this podcast, have a drink, and just kind of maybe just take it a little bit easy, and just take it a little easy, and just kind of hear and talk about marketing and be a part of the discussion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's a pretty righteous thing we're trying to do, people.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope the Lord's watching. We're trying to do the right thing. All right. So we got the what, right? We're going to address that over time. All right. The who. Okay. Who kind of helps? All that sort of thing. The when. The when is kind of a weird one, right? When do you start marketing? When do you consider that?
Yeah.
Right? Is that something you do from the beginning?
Yeah.
When? How long does it take to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like the time frames involved, and if you're an established company, you're going to reintroduce yourself.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, that might be a long project. You got to do a lot of research. Right?
Yep.
So that's kind of that's part of that work value, right? It's like, hey man, you're not asking a small thing here.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I'd be kind of curious to see what we can offer. I think that's a big insight for small business owners. If you're the one watching, how long is it going to take to get that stuff done? Right. It depends on the size of the scope of the business, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I think when it comes to the when, I mean, there's a lot of conversations about that, but we all know that when it comes to marketing and branding, it starts with that concept. The moment you know this concept, you're already trying to sell it to yourself.
Oh, that's a cool idea, man. You're already trying to sell it to yourself.
And then you're already trying to sell it to others who your closest confidants. Hey, I got this idea, right? I got this great marketing idea or company idea. What do you think about this? Boom, already you're talking marketing. Now, it's not necessarily a billboard ad, but you're already thinking about your pitch, right? So we'll talk more about that. But yeah definitely. Like, how do you start formulating all those concepts so that you could start to appeal to the right audience, right?
Kind of, it's funny is when you say it like that, when you're like, I always picture that meme of the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and there's like all the red lines, and he's pointing all frantic to it, Yeah. So I think it's like, okay, in the beginning, you're like, all right, I got this crazy idea, and you like pitch it to everybody you know or whatever, and you manifest it, and all of a sudden you're making your widgets or whatever, and then, but it's funny how from before we were saying. Then you get this crazy idea that I'm going to use a lizard to sell insurance or whatever it is, right? And so it's almost kind of like you've got this extreme business kind of like logic on the one side, this scientific, data-driven, whatever on one side of it. But the other side, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is, no, it's just this crazy idea that I think... I have stones enough to think that this weird idea I have is going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
And another word I want to hit again is risk. Right? Interesting how much risk is involved. It'd be cool to think about when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. We don't want to bum anybody out, but when it doesn't work, when you look at like failed marketing campaigns or whatever. It'd be interesting, I guess, to study, well, what happened?
Yeah, right.
What went sideways?
What went sideways, which means that you have to know what you're evaluating. You actually have to have your key performance indicators, your KPIs. You got to know. You got to be able to track this stuff so you know what's working, what's not working. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
All right, KPIs T-shirt, bro. Hashtag right. KPI. All right, so we got the who, the how, what, why, and then the when on the backside. Why?
Yeah.
Why? So
why this podcast or why?
Yeah.
Just why marketing? Why?
Well, I think as we go through it, right, the why in the podcast is mostly to spread. I think there's some nostalgia in what we're talking about because as you're bringing it up, like that old McDonald's commercial, that old Dunkin' Donuts. I'm like, oh my god, dude. My dad.
So doesn't it fascinate you? Like when I bring up those company names,
immediate,
right?
Imagery, like
I remember. I could almost remember the feeling of like watching these commercials, or opening that ad and be like, oh, I want to listen to this, right?
Yeah.
And that was in the 80s, when I saw some of those, right? Or like the Where's the Beef? I know that was on my mom's like mom and dad's small little TV. I'm watching this and I'm like, I was captivated by this stuff. And to me, that's that's the beauty of all that, and the mystique around advertising and marketing. I want to bring that back. Yeah, you know, I want to, and that's one of the reasons why for this podcast too. Is I want to bring that feeling back, and and kind of talk about, like, it's more than just putting up a fun 7-second reel on Instagram. There's effort and strategy that people put into those things, and it's still there. Sometimes we lose sight of the mystique and the magic around marketing and advertising, because it seems so easy. Even a high schooler on TikTok can do it.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, those influencers, they put a lot of thought into their brand. They put a lot of thought into those videos. That's why they're so good. That's why they know who they are, and they're appealing to so many people. I want to talk about that. I want the viewers, to be able to experience, like, there was a lot of mystique and magic around marketing then, but there is today too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating, man. Yeah, a little bit more appreciation for the art of it. When I think of that Dunkin' Donuts and Make the Donuts and all that stuff, my parents owned a donut shop.
Did they?
Yeah,
really?
Mickey's Donut Land. So my uncle has passed. Uncle Mickey, he set up shop somewhere in Jersey, where my parents are from and everything, and so, you know, my dad was the donut man.
Yeah.
That's just what it was, right?
Okay.
And so to have that kind of in my head.
Did you make the donuts with them? Did you help?
Dude, let me tell you about something, right? So I a couple stories from Donut Shop, but I had the brilliant idea. Marketer, bro. I had the brilliant idea. I was like, yo, I love dinosaurs. Because, like, I'm a kid of the 80s, dude. So, like, I'm all about dinosaurs. So I cut a glazed donut, right? So I took that dough and I made a dinosaur out of it, right? Covered it in some glaze, gave it some eyeballs or something like this. I was a little, I couldn't have been 6, right? And then somebody bought it.
No way.
At least that's what my mom told me. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. She ate it.
I don't know. I don't know. You know, she's not around. I wish I could ask her, but yeah, I remember that, and I can remember that, like, it felt, as a little kid, I remember kind of like, how can I put it? Maybe it was like this. Maybe it was like the vibe of, like, Santa Claus is, like, out there, right? And, like, he's the man, right? But then, like, he's got his mall Santas that are, like, on the payroll, you know what I mean? Right? And so, like, just the same kind of vibe. I'm like, all right, Dunkin' Donuts, man. Yeah. So he's the dude. Yeah. Right? He makes all the Dunkin' Donuts. Right. He doesn't just work at one spot.
He works at all.
He's definitely not an actor. Right? He's definitely not no. So that mustache man is making millions of donuts, bro. Wow, how does he do it? He must be magic. It's him and Santa and Easter Bunny, and they're just cranking it out.
He used a picture of what a donut maker looks like.
Yeah, that's how you, right? But then I was like, okay, cool. So then if that's Santa, right? So then my dad is like the mall Santa, right? So he's fighting the good fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was like some pride. I'm like, cool. My dad's like that donut guy. All right.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, it's funny. God, I haven't thought about that in
right. Okay, wait, hold on 1 second. What was your favorite donut?
That's a tough one. So I would say that there was apple filling, right? Yeah. So like a glazed donut, like a jelly donut. Probably it was apple, and then there was like cinnamon sugar, and I would say to this day, it's that or maybe blueberry cake. Blueberry, nice. You know, that's a good look. Okay. What about yourself?
Usually plain. I've always liked it's a plain glazed donut. But if I wanted to go extreme, it would be the chocolate covered donuts with custard inside. Okay. I'm trying to remember. Is that the Boston cream?
Way too damn extreme, dude. If I want to live in the edge,
if I want to live,
I'll get chocolate.
Is that? I'm trying to remember. Is that the Boston cream pie,
Boston
or is
cream?
that is the Boston cream with
cream
that
pie?
white? With that white cream, or is it?
I don't know. I don't really like the cream filled things.
Whatever, dude.
I like the fruit flavored,
what
jelly.
Kind of donut connoisseur are you? Apparently not.
It was the 80s, man. I was like, they sold it in 1988. I don't know. So,
yeah.
we should go get some donuts.
Yeah.
Or an last bit on the donuts. I promise. Old fashioned, but with like a Dunkin' Donuts, like a coffee. Oh. And like, I used to work at paintball. I was a paintball referee in Jersey. Shout out to Ray Gong. And yeah, you get old fashioned and you get that just, I don't want to say anything about the coffee. It's just, you know what it is, but it gets you through the day.
Yep.
That Dunkin' coffee, and you just, and back then I used to smoke too.
Yeah.
Oh man, with a cigarette,
it's the best.
Come on, bro.
It's the best.
Come on. And then get shot in the neck by some out of towners. Anyways, so marketing. So it looks like we've got quite a bit to discuss by way of how do you do the thing of marketing? Why do we, but also why did they?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So an interesting thing to me is like, well, then from a historical type perspective, not that this is some documentary series or anything, but I'd be interested to know, well, like who are they? Right. Who are the legends of the game?
Yeah.
Right. What did they do? Did they create things that are in use today where they created those kind of tools, I would be curious to know the kind of depth of that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I would bet a lot of people have no clue.
Yeah.
Right. Especially those small business owners. So I know I'd like to cover that eventually. What do you think about marketing, or what do you know, or what have you seen that's, one of the deep, not dark secrets, but just something maybe people aren't at all aware of, right? You'd be, when you say it to people, they're shocked. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind
as it relates to marketing?
As it relates to marketing and or branding, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of issues currently that's happening, I think, behind the scenes when it comes to marketing as it relates to the digital world, right? Because now in the digital technology, there's a lot of information that's gathered about people, right?
True.
In order so that we could be able to be more targeted in our messaging, in attracting them, marketers now have a lot more access than we ever had in terms of information about the people we're targeting, right? And so there's privacy issues there. There could be ethic issues there. For example, even on like how you design certain things online and how it impacts the viewer. And we know that there's more opportunities because we have all this information that we could be able to manipulate and coerce. So there's a dark side to marketing that isn't often talked about. Yeah. Where now big companies are establishing policies and protocols to make sure that they don't step across that line in terms of how they're gathering information, right? Because think about everything that you're posting on Facebook, everything you're posting on or searching for on Google, that's going into some major data bank, right? That can be used, and it could be used for good, it could be used for bad, right? Just like any tool could be used for good or used for bad, right? So there is a dark side that could happen in marketing. I don't, and that's often being, discussed and trying to be hammered. Maybe not as much as it should, but there is definitely that. Even today,
That's heavy, man. Yeah, that is dark. All right, so we had the 5W How, high school English, class of 99, Jackson, New Jersey, shout out. So we have the who, the how, the why, the where, the what, the when. Motivation. So you've been doing this for a hot minute, right? What keeps you doing it? Why aren't you burned out?
It's really the people. Yeah. I mean, it's relationship. One of the things I've learned about marketing in particular that I'm pleasantly surprised. Of course, I led in talking about the early years of experiencing advertising, and so a big part of what I came into marketing was about promotions and advertisements and all the glitz, the glamour type thing. But what I learned the most is it's about relationships.
Nah.
It's about people. At the end of the day, marketing and branding is about the people. It's about understanding people, how to communicate to the people, how to attract people, how to show empathy to people sometimes, how to energize people around your brand, right? It ends up being very much about people. And for me, if you know me, it's all about people. It's all about people. I'm a people person, and if I could surround myself around people and understanding and learning about people, then I'm in my happy place, basically. So. Yeah. And that's what I've been pleasantly surprised about this industry is that yes, you want to make things sound good. Yes, you want to make things look good. Yes, you want to attract people in order to buy your products so that you could make revenue, right? Increase revenue. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand the people you're targeting and really actually care for them and solve their problems, then you're in the wrong business.
I could see. Yeah. It seems almost too obvious now that like somebody who's an empathizer, right, as many personality tests or whatever would tell you, I can see how that obviously translates into the marketing world, right? If you can see that other person's perspective. Make them, like dude said, what's his name? Don Miller, right? Donald Miller. Where they're the hero, man. Like, we're just helping them out.
Yep.
But,
it's for me, you took the Enneagram test, right? Haven't you?
I did.
So for me, I'm 3 wing 4. Okay. And so I'm very much of a feelings nurture type of a person, but has a vision, and has a direction where he wants to go. But as a result, that really helps me as a nurturer. Helps me to try to understand the people we're trying to communicate to, and feel for them. Say, okay, what is it? Let me put myself in their shoes, and why would they want to buy this product, or why would they want to buy this service, right? And that's why I really enjoy it. You're working with people, all right? And then also what just keeps me going is when I help clients understand like what their brand is about and how they're helping people. It's fascinating seeing the light bulbs in their minds go off, and they get this renewed sense of excitement about what they're doing, and it just builds this momentum which just feeds into the campaigns and promotions we're doing, and to me that's exciting. Like, yes, they get it.
That's the part I like, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of think about like, let's say you don't know what your identity is, just even as a person. I don't. But the more I teach you about who you are, you would get excited, right? You'd be like, wow, you're right. I am that, and this is who I am, and it just compels you to want to get up and just motivate you to go, right? The same thing can happen when I help clients understand their brand identity, and understand how their brand and their service or product impacts the people that they're serving, and once they get that, man, they're just energized, because often they tend to be, especially if they've been doing whatever they're doing for years, right? They could lose a little bit of motivation. It's all about the numbers, how much money, revenue do we get. Once you speak into their brand again and kind of almost like watering that wilted plant, and you just put a little water in there and nurture it, and then they see what they're and reminded of what their brand's really about. Man, the energy that they put into it, it's exciting, and that's what compels me to say I love doing what I do. To be able to turn those light bulbs on in people's minds about their own brand. And then see the growth internally in their culture, externally amongst their target audience, and then obviously helping them grow their business. That feeling it's for me, it's like hitting that golf ball on the green, for the first time. It's like, yes. It's just such a really great feeling.
Solid like in jiu-jitsu, it's a good submission. You get somebody just blacking out in front of you.
Talk about dark, dude.
Bro.
I go golf, you go submission holds.
It'll get me a tear out of my poked eye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wyatt.
You know what? Everybody has a thing, that's for sure.
Man. But yeah, that's okay. So that's interesting. That's interesting because I've done a lot of things in my life, and whether I knew it or not, I was always selling something, right? whether it was selling myself or whatever it might have been, to employers in interviews or a product or whatever it was. The interesting thing is that as much as that is kind of fun, I just like the conversation. I really enjoyed the conversation with people, right? But I love the teaching moments. And I've taught guitar since I was in high school at this point. And I've taught music. And any teacher out there is going to tell you, like, man, they just look for those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
I just want the kid to light up and be like, oh, I got it. Oh my God. It was that easy. It was right in front of you the whole time. And there's something I hadn't really put that together, I guess, that we share that element.
Yeah.
Right. There's a light bulb moment. Although the understanding might be slightly different. Right. I'm trying to just get you to play a G chord so you can play, Cheeseburger in Paradise or whatever it is, or whatever that song is. But when these people have this aha moment in their business, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you can provide what used to be this inert object sitting there, unsure which direction. Am I even a soccer ball? Maybe I'm just a rock. But then all of a sudden you remind them, no, dude, no, you have these weird, hexagonal shapes,
right,
little tiles on you. And they're like, I do.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, dude, you got all these logos on you, man. And there's like these South American guys that kick you around every day because they love it. What are you? I'm a soccer ball. Go get it, dude.
Yep. Right. Then you help them realize their purpose. Yeah. Right. And their mission and their values and why. Right. All that's all part of branding. And once you do that, and they're like, I love this. This is I needed to hear this. Once that light bulb goes off like that, then it's like, yes, okay, that's why I'm doing this. By the way, what ended up being your Enneagram number?
We'll call back there. I like that. So, it was 50%, right?
Okay.
So it's 50% 1, which makes me like a big dick. Or
I was like
50% 7.
That's why you're like Jonathan.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry, bro. Not sorry. No, but it was 50% 7. So then I was like, oh no, I don't be a 1. I don't know. I don't know what I want to be. But I looked at the 7, and then I looked at the 8 wing, I think it was, and I was like, oh, that felt very right.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but you leave a comment, call me a liar, go ahead. But yeah, going through that exercise, it had been a while, and when you brought it up, I immediately was like, oh yeah, I'm a 4. But I hadn't really sat down to really take it in a very long time, right? And
you probably, how long has it been since you've taken it? At
least 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, so you've grown into yourself, right? Grown into your own.
Oh my God. Yeah, if I was, that kid back then, that younger man, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I was doing. So, it was interesting.
Well, it's no different than company brands. Sometimes company brands over the years, they mature into something more beautiful or something different, right? Yeah. Because they start to learn about themselves a little bit more and who they're really servicing and why, right? It's no different than that.
Yeah.
On a personal level, the more you start to learn about yourself and find your identity, right? It changes the outcome of those personality tests.
All right. So that's great. That's great. I think we got a good summarization of the things we're looking to offer. We cover a lot of ground in this. We're trying to build a community. We're going to have a lot of episodes upcoming, a lot of different topics. We're hoping that you like, you share, you subscribe, do all those things that you do. Maybe you can give us a sense of what it is we can expect as we go forward into this project of ours.
I think that over the course of the next several episodes, things are going to evolve quite a bit, but I think the main things are going to be consistent. We're going to be talking about today's current issues when it comes to marketing and advertising, explore what innovative new tools or techniques are involved regarding the topics. In the future, we're going to talk about, hopefully reminisce about, the marketing greats of yesteryear and talk about some of their creative ideas and genius moments, and hopefully maybe try to apply some of their insights to today's world of marketing. And so I hope that this is a place where, if, for those of you who are interested in the topic of marketing, who are marketing directors, part of a marketing department, maybe you're in graphic design or you're in sales, and you just want to feel like you belong, you're invited into Don Draper's Den here. Yeah. Talk with Chris and myself, and engage with us on social media or any of our platforms, because we're listening and we want to hear your insights. Maybe share some of your victories or failures when it comes to marketing, or maybe bring up some topics that you want us to be able to discuss on this podcast. We would happily do that. So I think it's going to continue to evolve. But what's cool is that this is an open door, for all of you who want to be. Who want to gain some or give some insight regarding the world of marketing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well said. Okay, fantastic. From the iconic era of advertising to the digital age, I'm Chris.
And I'm Ernie.
Keep it legendary.